Greetings, everyone. This is Sal Munoz with All Chicago. So you are about to watch the DFSS quarterly reporting Q&A that was recorded on March 20th. There was an issue with the beginning portion of our webinar, so the first 15 minutes of the webinar in this video are not recorded. So we are going to skip you to when we were able to figure out our technical issues. So the introduction is going to be a little jarring once we get started, but we go over the quarterly. We do a quick review of the quarterly reporting process. What I'd recommend is if you want more of a technical video going over how to pull the reports, how to schedule the reports, how to interpret the reports, there is a link right here. So you should see an annotation linking you to the proper video. You may also be watching this on the DFSS quarterly reporting submission guide. If you're doing that, it is on this same article. So you'll be wanting to look out for another video that is much more relevant to pulling the report. I'll give you a couple of seconds to click that link. Otherwise, we are going to skip straight to our webinar that was recorded on March 20th, and it was a Q&A with Tammy Cole, who is the Director of Homelessness Services at DFSS. Thanks. So we have the review. Again, starting this year, DFSS quarterly report will begin to source data from HMIS. The domestic violence providers, if you have not already received a template of the report, please notify DFSS or HMIS and we can get you a template of that report. If you're a non-HMIS project, then you will have to email us and open up a ticket so that we can sort of get situated why you're not on HMIS and to come up with a plan so that you can begin to source data from HMIS. Again, this quarter's timeline, we've already wrapped up unveiling the report. We've wrapped up the data support sessions and the follow-up webinar. On March 25th, interim programs need to submit their carryover reports, and the quarterly report will be due on April 8th through the 15th. Again, the first quarter report, this is a little bit of a structure. So you'll have your orange and pink cells that need to be, you need to manually input data into using references from the green tables, if there is a green table for certain cells. And so again, we have these reference tables. You can see this is sort of a live example of it. And then we have manually sourced data. So again, as I had been saying, this manually sourced data is in pink, and that means that you have to literally input information by yourself. So there is no equivalent database or reference table for you to be able to use that comes from HMIS. So when you see these, you know that you'll have to look elsewhere for your data, whether it be an Excel sheet or an external database that is not HMIS. And again, we just went over no DOB. The report is dependent on having date of birth present so that it can categorize clients either as adults or children. If we don't have a date of birth, then we don't know whether they're an adult or children, or they're an adult or a child. So when you see no DOB, you'll be able to find out which client that is by running the client details report. And then for gender and family composition, once more, we will need to sort of report using IDHS's data standards, and you'll notice that those data standards oftentimes don't include a lot of gender expressions, particularly in question 5, where where there is a table slotting clients by their gender and their age. So in HUD, we have gender expressions or gender nonconforming, transgender, but as you'll notice in the IDHS table, the orange cells, there's not a transgender, gender non-conforming option. So you will have to, any clients that you have that are gender non-conforming, transgender, you will have to slot them into that binary. All right, folks, so let's go ahead and run the reports. So I'm going to start from the get-go, but we start off at home. And as you all know, you should be aware with how Service Point already looks. If you do not have an HMIS account or an ART account, then I would recommend you get in touch with your agency technical administrator. So everyone who is able to run this report will see this connect to ART right up here on the top right side. And I'll go ahead and click that. And I'm going to navigate to the DFSS folder. I'll go to my public folder, Chicago COC reports, DFSS, and then I'll open up DFSS quarterly. And again, we have two different folders here, one called reports for submission, and these are the reports that you will be sending over to Maria Lamoth to fulfill submitting the report. And the client detail report is going to be the report that you'll run for yourself to be able to troubleshoot any issues that you see. So the client details reports typically include what the submission will look like, and it'll include a client list of which clients entered, which clients exited, their demographics, etc. So it includes all the information that is being factored into developing your report. So I'm going to go ahead and I will schedule a quarterly report to run. So what you'll do is you'll click on this magnifying glass if you didn't see. You'll click on schedule report. And the reason we're scheduling reports is because it runs in the background in Service Point, so it doesn't time out for you. What we've been experiencing is that a lot of providers are telling us that this report takes very long to run. It's true. It does take a long time to run. So we ask that you schedule the report so that 30 minutes later or 20 minutes later, whatever it may be, you can come back in your ART inbox and see that the report is already done and just simply download the Excel file. So like I had mentioned, these prompts here are all, they seem to be intimidating. You have the EDA provider, enter report start date, etc. You don't have to worry about any of that. The only prompt you have to respond to is which providers for this report. And so this is the only thing you have to respond to. So I'll click on select to select my provider. I'll run this on the All Chicago Emergency Shelter. And you'll see that when I click that green button next to All Chicago, it had actually selected it. It put it into my selected values. I'll click submit there. So now my enter providers for report, All Chicago's right there. I'll click on next. Name can be the same. You could change it to whatever you want. You could update it to reflect the date that you downloaded it. The report format is going to be in Excel because you'll want to edit this. And the interval will be once. We'll click send. And then in about 15 to 20 minutes, it will be in your inbox. So for our purposes, what I'm going to do, I've already scheduled some to run. So I'll click on my inbox. And what you'll notice is that I already have some of these reports here. So I managed to schedule a quarterly report for myself this morning. This is what I refer to when I talk about your ART inbox. So to download this, I'm just going to click on the magnifying glass right here. Click on download. And then we can go ahead and open it up. So when you open it up, you'll find that there is a cover sheet. We have our entry exit summary, and if you downloaded the carryover, it would show you this as well. And again, you'll notice that everything has, almost every single question has a reference table. So as you can see, there's a lot of orange and green next side to side. So you'll use these reference tables to inform how you answer the tables over here. And so you'll scroll all the way down and notice that really the only couple of questions that have pink cells are towards the bottom, where we talk about project functions, the beds, and any turnaways or referrals. And so again, if I were to have to submit this report, what my process is going to start as is I'll look here and confirm that this number is correct, and I'll go ahead and enter 11. I'll go ahead and enter 18. Oh. And then adults would be 18, children 3. But again, this is after you confirm it. And also note that we have a couple of no date of births here. So this is the perfect prompt for us to be able to look into the demographics. So this other tab over here is the entry exit demographics. And what this tab shows you are the clients that are entering the project and the clients that are exiting the project. And here you'll see that it'll highlight any sections that are not answered, because if it's not answered, then it's not being pulled into the report, and we just want you to be able to review those clients. And so then we have these clients who have issues, so clients that are chronically homeless. If we had clients that had disabilities, they would appear here, etc. And again, I ran this on a dummy report, but you'll find that the clients entering this quarter, it measures their income, non-cash benefits, insurance, and food stamps at entry, as well as exit. So we're continuously taking a look at both clients. And then if you use service transactions to track your clients, then the services provided will be listed here. So here you can see that I provided Rocky Balboa and Mickey Goldmill and Apollo Creed the service of case care management. But again, not many agencies will actually have this, because if some agencies are in the practice of using service transactions and others are not. And so the LOS tab is actually a length of stay tab. So here you'll see that it measures by this quarter's length of stay. If you have a client who's overstaying or staying more than a quarter, then it will max out at 90. And you'll want to use this to actually see which clients which clients should actually be exited, right? If I see a couple of clients here that are from 2013, that should be a little, maybe it's a little weird for an interim emergency shelter project to have a client from with an entry from May 2013. So I may need to exit this client, and that may be what's throwing off some of my numbers. So always keep that in mind. That's always there for you to be able to look at and review and confirm which clients should be exited and which clients should remain entered. And then we have length of stay in project for exiters. So again, there are several tables to this tab, one telling you the clients that are in that quarter, and the other telling you the client's length of stay as they exited. And so the carryover report is built the same way, essentially. It's just for clients that have been in your project previous to this quarter. So any clients that were in your project as of December 31st, 2018, they will be in your carryover report and will be listed and their report will be built up much in the same way. It'll look almost identical. The only difference is how we are actually tracking tracking these demographics. For example, outside of question 1, many of the questions are actually looking at clients that only have an entry or exit into your project or from your project for that quarter. So that sort of explains some of these low numbers. It's because we're looking at the folks that have entered or exited from the project as of this quarter. So with that, I think we'll go back to our presentation. And so to submit your report, you're going to want to have each project, not agency, submit the report files in one email to Maria Lamoth. And naming convention would be, using agency _ project _ performance outcomes, agency _ project _ entry exit, etc. So you may want to just have a consistent naming convention where you're indicating your agency and your project so that Maria can know what's what, essentially. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Tammy. We had a couple of questions from the last webinar, and we are going to be addressing it.
Thank you. Excuse me. How should I report on multiple programs? That was a question. An agency should submit a separate report for each project site. If agencies have multiple projects in HMIS at the same site, the project should be combined for reporting purposes. For example, a shelter with an HMIS project for families, and they also serve singles, and they have a different HMIS project for the single adults, that would be, and they're in one location, that would be one report. If there's an example, shelter that has 4 sites, they would submit 4 different, they would submit a HMIS report for each of the sites.
Okay, and I'll move on to the next slide.
Okay, which programs need to submit a carryover report? For this time, for December 31st, the reporting on clients enrolled on December 31st, 2018. Intern shelter, you need to submit that by March 25th. And then as part of your April 8th report, you can submit the permanent housing with short-term supports, youth intentional housing supports, and safe haven. And then in June 30th, just the interim shelters have to provide a carryover report. Some of the, I just wanted to say, some people call the carryover report as open report. That's the same thing. And Maria will handle the DV carryover report separately, and the CSBG funded interim shelters. What data does my program need to input into HMIS? The required ones are the entry assessment, exit assessment, and the IDHS supplemental form. The IDHS supplemental form should be completed for every client at entry into the program and exit from the program. Agencies should also update any relevant items as needed on a quarterly basis. Right now, not required at this point, is service transactions. If the programs do record service transactions in HMIS, this information will be available in the reference table. We will be looking in after this quarterly report, we will be looking to determine if at some point we're going to require service transactions be completed, but at this point we have not made that decision.
Yeah, and there we go. So now we have now we can go ahead and address some of your questions that are coming in right now. And I am going to go ahead and actually get started with a few of them that are a bit more HMIS related. So let me see. So here's a question that I want to get started. Someone had asked, should the carryover reports be run from December 31st to January 1st, etc.? So I'll say that you don't have to worry about adjusting any dates. The dates are preset. Don't change the start date. Don't change the end date. You don't have to change any dates. The only thing you have to do is indicate what project this should be run on. So no one has to change any dates on any of these reports. You just have to run the report on your project. And then we have a question from Sarah asking, so are we required to complete the IDHS, DFSS supplemental form at annual assessments and other update assessments? So I think this is maybe, Tammy, it's a bit more of a question for DFSS in terms of how often you want these assessments updated. Should it be? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're...
I was going to say, just like I had said before, at entry and exit, and then if you see if any of the information needs to be updated quarterly, you would do that for the IDHS supplemental form.
So, Sarah, I guess that's entry. You would want to update the DFSS IDHS supplemental at entry, exit, and then if there are any changes at your annual assessment with your client, you would update it then, but only if there are changes that affect the DFSS form. And then we have, so Sandra had come back and asked mine that her report is showing her carryover report is showing January 1st through April 1st. And the reason that is because we're looking at clients that had an open enrollment on December 31st. And this is, again, referring to the carryover report. So again, the carryover report, all the dates are set. The logic is meant to run from January 1st to April 1st. You don't have to adjust any dates. Because the idea is that those clients that were in your project as of December 31st are still going to carry over into the new quarter. So we want to look at this quarter. So it's fine that it's running from January 1st to April 1st because that's actually what we're looking at. All right. So then we have one person. So someone is asking that their agency doesn't have access to HMIS. So if you don't have access to HMIS, you would have to let us know that you don't have access to HMIS. We need to send you a template or figure out how you can get access if you maybe have an ATA that you're not unsure of, or maybe you are the ATA. We want to be able to work with you to get the report itself. So again, if you're at an agency that doesn't have a presence on HMIS and you're not a DV shelter, we've already sent out the reports of the DV shelters, but we aren't sure who in the system isn't using HMIS for their quarterly reporting. Let us know and we'll work with you. So just shoot us an email at hmis@allchicago. All right, so then let's see what else we have. So Leo Back asked, what's the difference between review reports and submission reports? Leo, the review is for review. It's where you're going to see client detail. It's where you're going to find out which clients are missing what data. It lists to you, as we saw in my previous example, we're able to see which clients are missing their ethnicity, primary race, just any kind of information that's missing, it would be listed there. That's under review reports. The submission reports do not have these tabs. The submission reports only have this tab and the title page. That's it. So those are the major two differences. The review are for you to do the work, clean up your data, and the submission is to pull the final data and then submit it. All right. All right, so we have a couple of Levon saying his program's not showing in the provider list. Levon, I'm not sure. I think I'd already seen it, but we can talk offline about that. Okay, so here is a question from Rachel, and I think this would be good to clarify. Tammy, so Rachel Shaw is asking if clients are in the project longer than 90 days, should they be exited from the program? It seemed like I had said something and it concerned her. So I just want to say that we are tracking the length of stay for 90 days, but that's only sort of a number for the but that's only the number for the for that quarter. So even though it's showing this quarter's length of stay, it's just there for reference. It's not saying that you have to remove any clients that stay longer than 90 days. And Tammy, I'm wondering if you want to touch base on that. Yeah.
Yeah, you do not exit clients if they're still in your program.
Yeah, so they can definitely stay more than 90 days. We understand
Yes.
that it sometimes it takes longer than 3 months. Then we have a question from Leo back again asking, is there an info page on accessing performance reviews? So we have a guide on how to access those. You can access the performance measures, the entry exit report, and the carryover all in the same way. They're all in the same folders, and you would download them all the same method. So if you're able to download the entry exit summary, you're also going to be able to download the performance outcomes. And if anyone has trouble with downloading the reports, just let us know. And this is a great one. So Tammy, this may be one for you. This is coming from Kaylee Swillem. So how do I differentiate between minors served by our services and their children, or the children of non-minors in DFSS? Their project serves clients 14 to 21 and their children, if any. Kaylee's major issue was that it measures by they have some emancipated youth, but what they've been finding is that those emancipated youth, there's no way to account for them, and so our system, our report, sees these as children. They see them as children. That's sort of, that's how it's slotted, and so. Kaylee, the way you would want to do this for this quarter, if you see that it slots them in children and you know you didn't serve children, or at least children who aren't emancipated and would be considered adults, you'll just want to switch it over to whatever appropriate section it would be. I know that you don't want them to be slotted under children, so then you would move them over to adults or emancipated children or emancipated youth as need be. This is the first iteration of the report, Kaylee, and your project is very specific to this. So it's something that we're going to try to build in process for accounting for those emancipated youth later down the line. So again, the short answer is switch those children to adults, switch them to the appropriate way that you would account for an emancipated youth. And the HMIS team will be working for the next quarter to see how we can account for these emancipated youth automatically, so that it doesn't cause any more issues going forward. All right, and so then we have a question by Hebron Morris, and it's going back to separating projects, Tammy. So his question is, are you saying that we should submit Lamplight 1, families in term housing, and 3, these 2 projects that are family in term housing, um, and so Hebron, just so I get the full understanding, would these have been 3 reports that you sent out in the past?
Yeah, I believe
You
it's
see
the
the
3
question,
reports.
Tammy?
There are 3 different programs. So the programs, they're located in one site, but they're 3 different programs. So he would submit 3 different reports.
So even though they're at one site, they're 3 different programs. So it would be 3 different sets of reports then. That right, Tammy?
Yes.
Okay.
And he can give me a call if he has questions.
Okay. And then Rachel Shaw asked, there are and this is a problem that we've been noting. There are some programs with single adults where the head of household number is different from the number of adults, and if you have and if you're only working with singles, that should be sort of 1-to-1. We're currently checking that out. We've encountered that with some projects, so we're trying to get to the bottom of it to see just exactly what is causing that issue or how it's being processed. So as of right now, we're working to get that resolved. As many. Okay, and then Rachel Shaw is also saying that there are many clients in the special needs tab that are listed as chronically homeless, but only one is showing up in the report. So, Rachel, that may be because those clients who have that special condition of being chronically homeless, they may have not entered. They may have. The report is only pulling in, the entry exit report is only pulling in folks that entered or exited that quarter. So that's something to keep in mind when you look at the report. But if these are all clients that came in that quarter, that would cause an issue. And then, all right, so Brett is asking, Brett from CSH. CSH passes through funding to subrecipient agencies. Should they submit separate reports for each agency or aggregate them into one report?
Aggregate them into one report.
So Brett,
if it's one program that they, if it's one program, then they need to aggregate it into that program. For example, if it's system facilitation, they have subrecipients under that one program, they would aggregate all the subrecipient information and put it into that and report as one program.
So Brett, I hope that was clear for you. You'll be submitting them as one program. And then this is another question from Sarah Birchler. What are they supposed to put in for the referral source field in the supplemental assessment? And Tammy, I'm going to sort of point that one towards you in terms of what that referral source typically would be, or what DFSS is tracking with that question.
I will have to. I don't have an answer right now, so I'll have to come back and get it. And we'll update the frequently asked questions and put it in there.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so everyone, you'll want to check the FAQ that we have on the help desk for that. And then Carrie George asks a great one that I think is going to be an issue to address in Q2, but Carrie is asking, does the report automatically identify clients who receive both Medicaid and Medicare so that it's not duplicated? And I'll say that right now it does not. So if you have a client who is listed as having Medicare and Medicaid on the same record, it would appear as two. So that's something that has to be an improvement for the next iteration when we go forward. And also, we would need to retrain some folks on how to properly, document that. And so, checking some more of these. If you have questions, folks, please send them in. So Sandra Medina has also mentioned that if she's asking if the monthly income will be, she's seeing some discrepancies with the monthly incomes of her clients. And so Sandra, so you asked if they're being worked on. On our end, we're pulling in whatever is in the sub-assessment. So what could be happening is that, if you have if a child's getting child support or something of that sort, sometimes we've seen that people erroneously may put that under the child, or if some type of funding is attached to the child that's ultimately going to the household, what we'd recommend is that you put that all under the head of household instead of just the child. So that could be what's messing up your causing the discrepancy between your income. Again, this is going to be a reference table, so if you want, if you find that the monthly incomes are so different from one another, from what the client's actual reality is and what you see in HMIS, then you can go ahead and input the information that you have on hand, instead of using the HMIS data. But it'd be all about consistency. So it's just a matter of working through that with them. There's no other income from those amounts showing up. So Sandra, I have several dates set for data support. So go ahead and we can schedule some time to look into that. So everyone, if you have any issues with sort of individual information, and I think, things about sub-assessments would be great so that we can review it in our data support sessions, so that we have some time to sort of chew through it and come to some type of resolution. But yeah, of course, Sandra, you're welcome. Are there any other questions? I tried to get.
I see one question here. It's in a program for single adults, why would the household number be different from adults? It should not be. Yeah, it should be the same.
So it should not be, and again, we're trying to resolve that. It would take a matter of sort of like sitting down and looking through it with you. So if you do have that issue where you have more adults or more adults than households or households than adults for your singles project, then let us know and we can try to resolve that. That's going to take a little bit of a deep dive in looking into just how the data was entered in HMIS. All right, so I think I will give another minute for folks to send in their questions, but otherwise, I think we are close to wrapping it up. Folks, I am very sorry about the mix-up with the screen earlier. I'll go ahead and what I'll do is upload the latter half of this webinar so that we can you can see some of the questions as they've been answered. And what I'll do is re-record how to pull the information from HMIS so that we have sort of a complete through line there. So I just want to go through a couple of resources with you. We have several articles on the help desk, and right now we are still offering data support sessions. We'll be adding more data support times, so keep checking that link. We have some more set for March 29th, and I'm going to be setting up some more for April. Then we have the submission guide, and 2 weeks ago, the webinar that we did 2 weeks ago, and an FAQ. And those are also living documents, so we're doing our best to update them, add videos. We'll be adding this video to that submission guide and webinar article as well. And then, of course, if you have any issues, the best way to get in touch with our team is to submit a ticket or email HMIS@allchicago. You can also email me directly, or if you have questions that more rely on the reporting side with DFSS, you can ask Maria Lamoth at City of Chicago. All right, Tammy. Well, thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you so much, everyone who had joined us on the webinar. I think we are good to go. Is there anything else you want to remind folks of, Tammy?
Just to do the reports as soon as possible, and to submit for the interim shelters to submit their carryover report by March 25th. And we're all here to help each other, and I'm really looking forward to being able to use the HMIS data to complete the quarterly reports as much as possible. And this is in progress, and there will be changes throughout the year. We'll be improving the process.
Yeah, folks. Again, we're trying to make this as streamlined as possible, and it's about turning the ship. We're not turning on a dime, but we're trying to slowly correct the course. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much, Tammy. Thanks for your time. Again, sorry everyone about the little snafu with the screen earlier. I will be creating a couple of videos to go over the reports that will be embedded in the guide itself. So thanks very much, and have a great one, folks.